today on behalf of our team, and quite a few of the team are actually here, which is great. And really what I wanted to talk to you about was the approach that we took to patient partner recruitment. So you've heard a little bit about the patient partner project now from Chidinma describing her approach to her MPhil research. But just to give you a sense of the larger project, the patient partner project as a whole is not a research project but a capacity development project. And what it seeks to do is bring together three key groups of stakeholders, so namely staff, students, and patients, into a multicultural and multidisciplinary grouping for the collaborative development of a communications curriculum specifically for healthcare and social care students. So what I'd like to point out is that each of these three groupings are being recognized as experts by experience within their own right. So staff are experts at being healthcare providers, at being educators. Students are experts at learning from their educators, modeling the practices that they see. And patients are experts at being on the receiving end of these communicative practices and engaging with the healthcare system. So the overarching theoretical framework for the project as a whole is Levenwenger's community of practice. And what we recognize is that through developing shared beliefs, histories, and values, we can come together to collaboratively work on the development of this communications curriculum. What's important to see here is that we do not say that we are a community of practice. We very much recognize ourselves as becoming a community of practice. And that's particularly important within this context, as Chidinma raised, because of the issues of power and participation when you bring together diverse groupings such as staff and patients and students. So when we look at the literature, what we see is that educators can often feel threatened by patients coming into that space, and that when patients and educators engage with students, students are often seen or perceived to be something of a middleman in a hierarchy of those three groupings. And while educators and medical professionals are often willing to sort of temporarily lend power to the other groupings, there's still a lot of resistance to genuinely sharing power and making sort of shared decisions. And so, just to come back to what Chidinma highlighted here is Arnstein's ladder of participation. So, yes, it was developed in the late 60s, but it really was a seminal piece of work there, and it's heavily drawn upon, particularly in the context of social health care. And what was really useful about this ladder, or what it really makes clear, is that whenever you have two or more groupings of unequal power coming together to collaborate on something, you can very easily wind up in a situation where that collaboration is not collaboration, but just tokenistic or manipulative. So we may consult students, we may consult patients, but are we actually interested in power sharing? Are we actually interested in distributing the decision making? And so it was really important for us as thinking through this project that we wanted to sit at the level of partnership between these three groupings. And so that really was foundational for us in terms of how we approached constituting the partnership. So in terms of our staff partners, they represent 4 different institutions. We've got Karel de Groote in Belgium, we've got Avans University of Applied Science in the Netherlands, and Lahti University in Finland, and then staff from here at UCT. And cumulatively, this represents a very multicultural, multidisciplinary group. So we have nursing professionals, medical doctors, psychologists, linguists, physiotherapists, and educational specialists, all lending their expertise to this project. And particularly our European partners are experienced at bringing patients into classrooms more in the context of the service user format, but nevertheless they have experience of working with patients and are able to share their knowledge with us. Our undergraduate student partners were identified through the special study modules last year, which was great. And our undergraduate European partners were identified through internationalization programs at their home institutions. But of course for us the big question was, who would our patient partners be? How would we recruit them? Where would we find them? What would this group of people look like? So when we went to the literature, one of the most important things that emerged was this diversity of perspective that patient partners could lend to any situation. And so we knew as we were thinking about this project that we wanted to bring together a group of people that were representative of the population of the Western Cape and representative of the population of people that are making use of the government healthcare system. We also knew that we were looking for people that had had a meaningful engagement with the healthcare system. So this could mean either being a patient themselves or being a long-term carer for a close family member, and that role often puts people in a position of having to advocate with the healthcare system on behalf of the patient. We were looking for people that had an interest in teaching and learning, that had good listening skills, that had a high level of emotional intelligence, people who could observe what was going on around them, reflect on their own reactions to what they were observing or experiencing, and being able to kind of critically and objectively provide feedback around those experiences. And we were looking for people that could think and act and respond creatively in unstructured situations. So, again, we went to the literature to have a look at how people recruited patient partners, and commonly NPOs and NGOs have been a good source, particularly in the context of service users, through clinicians or treatment centers when patients are being brought into projects as research partners, or via word of mouth or advertisements. And so we combined two of those approaches by advertising within Groote Schuur Hospital. But what the literature was very sketchy about was the actual recruitment process, the actual selection of appropriate partners for a particular project. And so as we were thinking about this, trying to kind of define the list of things that we wanted the recruitment process to be, we realized that we needed it to be authentic. We were looking for people that had innate skills and abilities that don't necessarily translate well into a written CV. We were looking for the process to be beneficial. We recognize that we are tapping into a vulnerable population here, and we didn't want the process to be stressful for people, and especially for applicants that may not be successful. We equally wanted them to have a beneficial experience. We wanted it to be collaborative. Of course, that is one of the key principles underpinning this work. And we already had student partners and staff partners, so we wanted those two groups to be able to work together for the recruitment. We needed an efficient process because we are resource constrained, as always. But most importantly, we wanted a flat process. Recruitment processes, interviews, applications immediately create a power differential between those two groups. And we recognize that those power differentials already exist, and the last thing we wanted was to exacerbate that from the word go. So the answer that came to us was applied improvisation. So some of you may be familiar with improvisation. We tend to think of this as theater sports, you know, whose line is it anyway kind of stuff. And it's true, that is improv. But it was around the 1960s that Viola Spolin is largely credited. She was an actor and an educator, and she's really credited with taking improv and applying it as an educational tool within sort of theater contexts, particularly to enhance listening and responsiveness, to help people stay centered, focused in the moment, and to respond to things in an improvisational way. So, although it's remained largely confined to the theatrical context, it is starting to emerge as a strategy for training in a variety of different situations. And some of you may have even seen a couple of semi-recent publications in Medical Teacher around using applied improvisation as a learning tool. So it's making its way out of the theatrical context into other situations. But we haven't been able to find anything that indicates its use as a recruitment tool yet. So as far as we know, this is a novel application. Thinking about what it was that we needed to get out of using improvisation, firstly I said we were looking for an authentic recruitment process. So improv really requires that people draw on their innate skills, their abilities, what it is that they are able to do, and certain games will help you to identify people that already have those abilities, and playing certain games will help you to exercise those abilities. We were looking for something that was beneficial, and improv really is, it's fun. You play for fun. It's games, there's no pressure, there's no stress, nobody has to participate, you're never forced into a situation. If you participate, you do it because you're finding it fun. We were looking for something efficient, and this certainly was. It's a group activity, which meant that we could work with all of the applicants at once, and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of games to choose from, which really allowed us to pick and choose the games that would be most useful for the characteristics we were looking to identify. And it's flat. There are no winners, there are no mistakes, everybody is equal. You play when you want to play, you don't play when you don't want to play. So it really flattened those power structures of the traditional recruitment process. So we worked with an applied improvisation facilitator, and we organized 2 workshops. The first workshop was for our staff and student partners, and what this workshop allowed was just to give us a familiarity with the process of improv, the kinds of games that we could play, and the observations that we could make about one another during the games, which we could then apply to the applicants when we had the recruitment workshop. And then that allowed us to really collaboratively, staff and students together, discuss which games we thought would be most appropriate and make that selection as a joint decision-making process. We then held our second workshop, so this was the recruitment workshop that people were invited to. So it was for the staff, students, and the potential patient partners. We had 30 applicants arrive on the day, and we all played together. So that was really important. There was no one of us is the leader and you're following me. We all played the games together. All of us was equally uncoordinated and silly and made fools of ourselves and laughed. And it really changed the dynamic of, it was unlike any recruitment process I've ever witnessed. When we'd finished playing, we played for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. The applicants all went and had lunch together, and then the staff and student partners got together and discussed what we had observed, and were able to collaboratively make a selection of applicants that we wanted to recruit, which was a really nice way to approach it. So our patient partners were a question mark no more for us, and we really did identify a fantastic group. So initially we recruited 12 adults, most of them unemployed, some of them semi-employed. We currently still have 9 in the program. And really immediately, from day one, we started to develop those shared histories with one another. We really could see seeds of friendship being formed. By the end of the day, this group of people that were strangers at 9 o'clock in the morning were swapping phone numbers and chatting and laughing like they had known each other for years. It really was an amazing thing to witness. It really did enable a more equitable distribution of power in the program. Immediately, we created a sense of equality and approachability between the staff and the students and the partners. And we believe that participation in this program is certainly empowering for our patient partners. They're gaining skills and capacity development. They're being remunerated for their time. We value their contribution. We do not expect them to volunteer their time. And they've gained a renewed sense, especially for some of them, of purpose and value within their broader communities. But rather than take it from me, I'm going to let one of our patient partners, Wendy, speak to you in her own words.
I'm Wendy. My name is Manzede. I'm from Eastern Cape, rural area called Itesi. I am a mother of a son. 2014, I went to PE college doing early childhood development to teach those little ones. That's what I do most, and I like doing that job, working with kids. Where I come from in Port Elizabeth, I was a Sunday school teacher, grooming those little girls to be how to maintain themselves, how to have self-esteem. I did that, and I am still in contact with them. So sort of to guide them. I took part in patient partner program because I think it will help me to make a change in our community. But being part of patient partner program, now it is open to me that you can ask, you can give feedback to the doctor, you can tell him what is wrong, not to let him talk for yourself. It's like you'll be more free to open your mouth and speak your mind, but in a way that no one will be harmed. I think the change that I will get there, it won't only be for myself, also the doctors, because they will be dealing with the community members. So the experience that we are getting there, and they will apply to their patients so that if they do as how we are taught there, I think there will be a change.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Natasha. I'm sure there must be a lot of questions. Yeah.
Do you see sort of a future where we might have a different kind of standardized patient, but possibly using these kind of patient partners who might themselves, they've been through a particular type of illness and they know what, would a standardized patient would act out, but for them it's, they've lived through it and they know how to really be in that role together with, okay, this is what we want the student to get in the assessment or whatever the field is.
Yeah, so look, I mean, we recognize that standardized patients are a particular type of way that patients can engage in education, and they're certainly necessary and very useful for assessment purposes and things like that. Here, where we were looking for a more authentic representation of a patient's experience, we constructed this as a patient partner program. So we didn't want it to be standardized in any way. We wanted an entirely authentic representation. But what you're saying is true, because here what we've got is a situation where we have educators and curriculum developers as staff working with patients to bring those two sets of needs together, so that in time, yes, the curriculum will actually speak to both the educational needs of the student, but also the needs of patients who are going to be on the receiving end of that. I don't know if you want to add to that, Rachel.
I think the challenge is always for us to want to do too much without actually putting in the work and the investment. And so it's in a sense easier to get people, erase their identity, give them a case, and then evaluate them on how they can act that out. But that's not identifying what's actually wrong in our communication practices at the moment. And certainly recruiting this group of people has not been without their problems, because they come with particular challenges, like they talk too much. Or, they don't, when you ask them a question, they take, you don't understand what they're saying, and what they're saying only comes out 10 minutes later, and you're like, get through this. But on these exactly the issues that we get as doctors, as healthcare providers. And so we can't give you the answers to that yet. We don't know. How am I going to take Sadiq and get him to just shut up already? You have kind of that feeling, but then you, at the same time, you understand that this is exactly the patient that I'll see in the clinic next week. How about letting Sadiq tell me how to deal with someone like him? And why does he talk so much? And why does he contest everything I say? So you can see how we then self-identify our problems, which we often make patients' problems. And so that's more where our focus lies, rather on what comes at the end of the day is now testing the student whether they can, do a standardized history.
And are you getting a lot of buy-in from the clinicians and the health professionals themselves?
It's slowly coming along. Look, I mean, this project is still in its early phase. We recruited our partners a year ago, more or less around this time. So the project is still early days. But really, the people that we've talked to about this project are excited about the possibilities. And so really we are exploring ways to make this long-term sustainable.
Maybe what I can add to that is that at the end of the day, the patient partners will bring what they bring, right? And we need to, in that, recognize the gems and what can be further developed. And of course, not everybody's going to buy into it. I mean, one of the reasons why we started this project is we reacted to students' feedback on some of the terrible communication practices that do happen in the wards. when patients are just, shut up or not allowed to speak or not allowed to say, what needs to be said. So of course there are people that will not buy in. And the regular thing is we've got real patients. Why do you need to have, patient partners? The difference with our patient partners is we're helping them to develop the voice, and our training of them has been in empowerment exercises so that they can actually give feedback to the student. So how many times are you going to get feedback with a real patient in a real environment? So it's a different thing that we're trying to do.
I must apologize and acknowledge the rest of the team that is here. Thank you for being here. Let's give Natasha and the team